The 2021 Myrtle Beach Bowl was a college football bowl game played on December 20, 2021, at Brooks Stadium in Conway, South Carolina. The second edition of the Myrtle Beach Bowl. The game featured the Old Dominion Monarchs of Conference USA and the Tulsa Golden Hurricane of the American Athletic Conference. The game began at 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time and was televised on ESPN. It was one of the 2021-22 bowl games concluding the 2021 FBS football season. Tax preparation software company TaxAct served as the game's presenting sponsor. The game was officially known as the Myrtle Beach Bowl presented by TaxAct. Both teams entered the contest with identical records of 6-6 overall and 5-3 in their respective conferences, and both entered on winning streaks of multiple games. Old Dominion won the final 5 games of their regular season, while Tulsa finished their regular season on a 3-game winning streak. Both programs achieved bowl eligibility with wins in their final regular season game. Tulsa was favored to win the game, as they entered the game favored to win by 7.5 points. The game was expected to see a close matchup between Tulsa's rushing offense and Old Dominion's rushing defense, both of which finished third in their conferences. The game started quickly, as LeMarion James returned the opening kickoff for a touchdown. Tulsa responded with 2 scores of their own in the first quarter, which also saw Old Dominion miss a field goal. Both offenses saw fewer success in the game's second and third quarters. Each team scored a field goal from similar distance in the second quarter. Tulsa led by 7 points at halftime, while Tulsa added 2 additional field goals in the third quarter. The Golden Hurricane lead grew to as much as 20 points in the fourth quarter after a 4-yard passing touchdown, though Old Dominion scored the game's final touchdown with just over 7 minutes to play. Tulsa was able to run the final minutes off the clock and secure a 30-17 win, the 11th bowl win in their program's history. Teams consistent with the bowl game's conference tie-ins. The contest featured the Tulsa Golden Hurricane from the American Athletic Conference, despite the other tie-ins being with the Mid-American Conference and the Sun Belt Conference. Tulsa's opponent was selected to be the Old Dominion Monarchs from Conference USA. This was the first ever meeting between the two teams. Both teams made their first appearances in the Myrtle Beach Bowl, which was in just its second year. Old Dominion made their second bowl game appearance in program history, following their win in the 2016 Bahamas Bowl, while Tulsa made their 23rd bowl game appearance, with their last appearance coming in a loss in the 2020 Armed Forces Bowl. Old Dominion Monarchs. Old Dominion started their season with a pair of blowout games, one in their favor and one against. The Monarchs' first game was a road loss to Wake Forest, but they followed this up with a win in their home opener against Hampton. The Monarchs then began a rough patch in their season that saw them lose 5 consecutive games, beginning with a road loss to Liberty. The first close game of the season saw the Monarchs fall to Buffalo by 1 point to finish September. ODU began conference play in the following weeks with a pair of road games against UTEP and Marshall. Both games were 1-touchdown losses for Old Dominion, the latter in overtime. The Monarchs' next game was their homecoming game, and they fell to Western Kentucky. Following a bye week, ODU's fortunes turned. With a record of 1-6, the Monarchs won each of their remaining 5 regular season games. Old Dominion earned their first conference victory against Louisiana Tech, and followed that up with their first conference win on the road against FIU to begin November. They then defeated Florida Atlantic and Middle Tennessee to improve to 5-6. Facing Charlotte, also 5-6, in their final regular season game. The Monarchs won by 3 possessions to secure bowl eligibility. They entered the game with a 6-6 overall record and a 5-3 record in conference. Tulsa Golden Hurricane. The Tulsa Golden Hurricane began their season with a rough loss in a home game against FCS-ranked UC Davis. A pair of road losses then dropped the Golden Hurricane to 0-3. Tulsa fell to Oklahoma State and No. 9 Ohio State in successive weeks. Their first win came the following week against Arkansas State, but they dropped their conference opener the next week against Houston. The next game saw Tulsa defeat Memphis by 6 points. The Golden Hurricanes' first road victory came the following week when they defeated South Florida by 1. This put Tulsa's record at 3-4 heading into their bye week. And afterwards, they returned home to face Navy. The midshipmen came away with a 3-point victory. To begin the month of November, Tulsa traveled to take on No. 6 Cincinnati in a game that hosted College Game Day and saw Cincinnati pull an 8-point victory. Needing 3 wins in their final 3 regular season games, the Tulsa team achieved just that. They defeated Tulane in overtime on the road, returned home to beat Temple in convincing fashion, and squeaked by SMU by a field goal on the road to achieve bowl eligibility. Tulsa entered the contest with a record of 6-6 and a 5-3 mark in conference play. Game summary. Pre-game. Entering the game, Tulsa was broadly expected to win. The points spread opened with Tulsa favored by 9.5 points but narrowed to 7.5 points by the time of kickoff. Tulsa's rushing offense was viewed as an asset, but was expected to match up well with Old Dominion's defensive line. While Tulsa finished third in their conference in rushing offense, Old Dominion similarly finished third in their conference in rushing defense. The rushing game was expected to be Tulsa's most effective method of moving the ball. As quarterback Davis Brin entered the game having thrown an equal number of touchdowns and interceptions. Both teams entered the game among the most turnover-prone and penalized teams in the nation, which led to predictions that the more disciplined team in both regards would have a sizable advantage. The weather at kickoff was sunny with a temperature of 47 degrees Fahrenheit, 8 degrees Celsius. The crew of officials, representing the Mountain West Conference, was led by referee Cal McNeil. First half, scheduled for a 2:30 p.m. Eastern Standard Time start. The game began at 2:35 p.m. with Tyler Tipton's opening kickoff. The game began quickly, as the opening kickoff was returned 100 yards for an Old Dominion touchdown by LaMarion James. Tulsa's first drive of the game went just as well. Davis Brin found Juan Carlos Santana for a 38-yard gain on the drive's third play, which eventually led to a 1-yard rushing touchdown by Shamari Brooks that leveled the score at 7. Old Dominion was able to move the ball effectively on their first offensive series of the game. They reached midfield in 6 plays after starting at their own 25-yard line. The Monarchs found themselves unable to convert on a 3rd and 5 at the Tulsa 24-yard line and had to attempt a field goal, but Nick Rice's 41-yard kick was unsuccessful, giving Tulsa possession of the ball. The Golden Hurricane had little problem moving the ball on this drive, gaining 3 first downs and converting a 3rd and 6 for a 23-yard passing touchdown from Davis Brin to Josh Johnson. This gave Tulsa their first lead of the game. The first 3 and out of the contest came on Old Dominion's next possession. After Le Marion James' kickoff return reached the Monarchs' 18-yard line, and a false start penalty moved them back before they were able to snap the ball for the first time. They were only able to make it back to their own 16-yard line before punting on 4th and 12. The punt was fair caught at the Tulsa 45-yard line, giving the Golden Hurricane offense excellent field position. But after failing to convert 3rd and 1 at the Old Dominion 46-yard line, Tulsa head coach Philip Montgomery elected to keep his offense on the field and go for it, a decision which backfired when Braylon Braxton was tackled behind the line of scrimmage for a loss of 2 yards. Now receiving great field position of their own, the Old Dominion offense was able to advance to the Tulsa 33-yard line before the end of the game's first quarter. Now with momentum, the Monarchs offense made its way to the Tulsa 14-yard line before they were stopped on 3rd and 6, forcing them to attempt their second field goal of the game. Unlike the first, this one was successful, with Nick Rice's 32-yard attempt narrowing Tulsa's lead to 4 points. Tulsa's first 3 and out came on their first drive of the second quarter. A sack by Jordan Young on 2nd down pushed the Golden Hurricane back to 3rd and long, eventually forcing a punt. A long pass on Old Dominion's next 3rd down got him to the Tulsa 38-yard line, but a face mask penalty on the next play pushed them back into their own territory. The drive stalled from there and the Monarchs punted on 4th and 14. Starting their next drive from their own 8-yard line, Tulsa moved past midfield on the drive's 3rd play, as Davis Brin found Josh Johnson for a 43-yard completion. However, like ODU's last possession, the drive was derailed by a 15-yard penalty. A personal foul set them back to 2nd and long, eventually leading to a punt. Tulsa's punt was a good one, as it was downed at the Old Dominion 4-yard line. On the 5th play of the ensuing drive, Hayden Wolf's pass was intercepted on the sideline by L.J. Wallace, giving Tulsa the ball at their own 46-yard line. However, an unsportsmanlike conduct penalty for excessive celebration pushed the ball back to the Tulsa 31-yard line. The Golden Hurricane recovered, converting a 4th and 2 on the Old Dominion 34-yard line to keep their drive alive and increasing their lead to 7 points with a 35-yard Zach Long field goal with 9 seconds remaining in the second half. Tulsa began the second half with the ball, after Anthony Watkins returned Dominic Seuss's kickoff to the 23-yard line. The Golden Hurricanes' first drive of the third quarter was a long one. It spanned 70 yards over 15 plays and took nearly half of the quarter, including a third down conversion and a fourth down conversion, before the Old Dominion defense forced a pair of incompletions at the ODU 7-yard line, leading Tulsa to attempt a 25-yard field goal, which Zach Long successfully converting it to make the score 20-10. The Monarchs' ensuing drive was short-lived. They went 3 and out after Hayden Wolf was sacked by Jackson Player for a loss of 7 yards on first down. Tulsa took possession at their own 33-yard line and again drove into field goal range, but again found themselves unable to convert a third down inside the red zone. The 32-yard field goal attempt by Zach Long was good, increasing the Golden Hurricanes' lead to 13 points. Starting their next drive at their own 19-yard line, Old Dominion quickly went 3 and out after 2 incompletions and a completion for no gain. Their punt was downed at the Tulsa 42-yard line, though the ball was pushed back to the Tulsa 32-yard line due to a holding penalty on the play. A pair of completions of 10 and 15 yards to Malachi Jones and Shamari Brooks, respectively, helped the Tulsa offense into Old Dominion territory within 4 plays, as they advanced to the Old Dominion 37-yard line before the clock expired. After 2 plays in the fourth quarter, Tulsa found themselves facing a 4th and 1 at the Old Dominion 32-yard line. Though an unsportsmanlike conduct penalty pushed them back to a 4th and 16. Despite this, punter Lachlan Wilson took the snap and ran with it in an attempt to gain the required 16 yards. He came up far short, being pushed out of bounds after a loss of 1 yard and giving Old Dominion the ball back at their own 48-yard line. A Blake Watson rush for 22 yards on the first play of Old Dominion's ensuing drive put him at their Tulsa 30-yard line, and a Hayden Wolf pass to Ali Jennings 3 on the next play very nearly resulted in a touchdown for the Monarchs, but Jennings fumbled through the end zone, resulting in a touchback. Tulsa took advantage of this blunder, reaching Old Dominion territory in 2 plays and converting 2 third downs before scoring a 4-yard passing touchdown from Davis Brin to Ethan Hall on 3rd and goal. Old Dominion responded quickly. A 34-yard pass from Wolf to Jennings got the Monarchs all the way down to the Tulsa 3-yard line. They scored 2 plays later with a Blake Watson rush, their first touchdown since the opening kickoff. Taking possession at their own 10-yard line, Tulsa ran the ball for each of the first 11 plays of the drive. Despite beginning their drive with over 7 minutes to play, they were able to force Old Dominion to spend all 3 of their timeouts and eventually ended their game in victory formation, running out the clock to win the game, 30-17. The game concluded at 6:10 p.m. after a total time of 3 hours and 35 minutes. Scoring summary. Statistics. Aftermath. With the win, Tulsa concluded their season with a record of 7-6. Conversely, Old Dominion finished 6-7. Tulsa achieved their first bowl victory since the 2016 Miami Beach Bowl and improved their bowl record as a program to 11-12. Old Dominion's overall bowl record dropped to 1-1 with their first bowl loss. This was the first bowl loss for Old Dominion head coach Ricky Rana since the 2018 Citrus Bowl, when he was the offensive coordinator at Penn State. A total of 6,557 people attended the game, marking an increase from the attendance of 5,000 in the inaugural edition. Tulsa quarterback Davis Brin was named the game's most valuable player. References. External links. Game statistics at statbroadcast.com